Do you remember in spring when we were all trying to get seeds from this particular seed company where everyone wanted to get seeds from? And yes, they were probably one of the most expensive seeds I've ever bought. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about, the Floret seed. Today I'm going to review the Zinnia seeds I grew now through a full season and wanted to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And yes, we have everything from all three categories here, so let's get going. I'm Steffi, I'm a home gardener here in Attleboro, Massachusetts, is zone 6. This is Maggie, and we're going to walk you through our experience today growing zinnias for the first season. So welcome to my channel. So let's discuss which varieties I grew. I would have loved to grow them all, but that was just not feasible at the price tag. So I had to make decisions, which was very tough at the time. But the ones I had my heart set on were the precious metals. Given what Erin shared on her Instagram account over the years, those were the ones I loved the most, like really, really big zinnia heads with this beautiful iridescent color around them. So those were the ones I was really excited about. Then I had also Alpenglow, which was a close second because they were a little bit smaller, supposedly similar style. And then the Victorian Wedding, a smaller, like almost like Lilliput type of like bloom size, which was more like doubly and full. And then the Golden Hour, which I always loved as well. Those were the 4 I bought, and I started from seed here. So I started them from seeds indoor. I think I started them March 31st, so right at the end of March, which in a zone 6 was still quite early. I used the soil blocking method, which is these days my only method of like growing seeds, with very, very few exceptions to that rule. And they throve in that setting. Like the first one were germinated already after 3 days. I think that was the Alpenglow, which had rockstar germination. Overall, all of those seeds had 100% germination for me, which was amazing. Given the price tag of the seeds, you want to make sure you get a lot out of them. So they grew beautifully and crazy. And then what we did in May 15th to be accurate, this is when we planted them outside. They were like 6 inches easily taller than my other zinnias from the Queen Lime series, which I started from seed as well. Same day, same seed mix, same everything, just a different tray. But they were like substantially taller and substantially like more healthy in the look and feel when I started them. So that was really, really great. I noted down in my journal that I'll probably start those ones 2 weeks later because I don't like transplanting seedlings which are tall like this. Not that they got laggy, they actually grew out really, really nicely, but I thought they had a slightly difficulty to like get a head start with being, they were hardened up, but like still like, I prefer seedlings being smaller to just grow stronger outside straight away. Personal preference, right? So once we had seeded them all in this beautiful backdrop here, they started to grow really, really fast. I didn't do anything. They actually, nothing got fertilized until like way mid-season, when I have felt like fertilizing at least once this season. Usually in the past, I tried to fertilize my plants at least like once a month or so, but this year was all about simplicity, long story, but they didn't get anything extra special since they got planted over there and was growing. They were also the first to bloom. I think it was actually a Golden Hour or a Victorian Wedding, which was the first one to bloom. And from there was no stopping. But now that we're a little bit closer, you probably can see that they got, unfortunately, also super fast diseased, which I'm not exactly sure if it was a variety thing. The Floret Zinnias, all of them got super quick leaf rot, unfortunately, already like end of July, I think, where they were just not even full height, like 2/3 of the height or so. They started to get leaf rot on the bottom. Granted, we had a super, super wet spring and yeah, a lot of water, a lot of rainfall. I had to irrigate barely like throughout June and July. But again, the other Queen Lime series barely got any of the leaf rot. That had like a month later until they saw any kind of diseases on it. So that was a little bit of a bummer. And then, as always, like in September, the powdery mildew set in, and of course it attacked the plants which were already impacted with some disease. The earliest, the zinnias were unfortunately on top of that as well. But The good news on the bad news is they still produce blooms on top of it, which are decent, which I actually didn't expect. I was very certain they will wither down and will succumb to everything. They still do okay for that amount of disease. Like, they are white when you look a little bit closer. In here, they're completely covered in powdery mildew. And yes, you could argue you should have treated them. I don't treat anything in my garden. I'm an organic gardener here. I don't spray. I don't do anything. And I also wasn't here enough to actually get ahead of that early enough to do anything about it. So that was just one of the things which I chose to just let go and let be and just see what happened. But on the good news side of things, I love the colors. The colors were stunning. Like, all of those like soft muted colors are 100% my jam. Mixed well with every bouquet. The golden hour especially mixed extremely well with my peachy color palette. All of the other ones went, typically they had like an purpley pinkish blush to it that went always with my like white and pinks typically, but I used them all, and I used them wild, and I used them long. So I was cutting them hard and still cut them, the ones which look okay to this date, and they have been blooming since end of June. So rockstar plants, really, really tough, barely staked. I gotta say they held up well. I wanted to do better with staking this year. I don't think I won that award, but, and we had some strong winds. We had a couple storms here where I was like, oh God, they're going to be flat when I'm getting back out. Granted, I have like chicken wire around it, which held it up a little bit from the sides, but otherwise they have held up pretty well in that regard. The only other thing, I was slightly disappointed, but I also didn't have a large number of plants per variety. So I had like 6 to 8 plants or something per variety, which are planted only because I have here very limited space. But most of the varieties were singles as Zinnia. So just very, very simple bloom structure, which I was a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for more doubles. But again, we'll give it next year another try to see how many more doubles we might create. That is probably why I tend, like, if I would have to pick one of my favorites out of the 4 I grew, it would be probably the Victorian Wedding, because they most all came down, mosquitoes, they most all came down as doubles, and I gotta say I tend to those ones more and really enjoy them. Nevertheless, we had beautiful, beautiful singles there as well, and the color coding and everything is just gorgeous. So they brought me a lot of joy this garden year, and I hope you had a few in your garden as well. I know they were very thought after. It was all the rage about in spring. And yeah, if you grew them, please drop me a comment of what you liked and what your experience was. I'm really curious to hear what other people thought about them. But for me, it was a positive experience. I'm so into this color palette. I'm excited to get maybe a couple more varieties next year to just see and experiment, but I'll definitely grow them again. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them below. You know, I love to chat with you in the comments. Otherwise, subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.